Welcome back to the Deep Psychology Podcast, everyone. I'm Ross, and in this episode we're going to talk about mediocrity, what I think is the main cause of mediocrity and how you can avoid it and how you can have more success in whatever you're doing. This is a Deep Psychology Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Edwards, writer, meditation teacher, founder of deep-psychology.com, and avid lover of all things psychological. In listening to this podcast, you're part of the worldwide deep psychology community of tens of thousands of people undertaking profound personal transformation. You can join us on any of the major podcasting platforms, and make sure to visit the site deep-psychology.com for lots of high quality resources. Let's get started. So I just want to say before we start that I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review, particularly if you're listening on Spotify and Apple and you find that this podcast is really helpful. Please leave a review, it really helps. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, I do appreciate a like and a subscribe, although I realise that everyone says that nowadays, so it doesn't register, but I will say it really does make a difference, and it helps me share this stuff with more people like yourself. So if you find it helpful, please leave a review or leave a like, and subscribe to the channel and keep coming back. So the theme of mediocrity. Listen, I've read a lot about success, and I've had success in different areas in life, and I sort of observe people and how they're getting on in life and the sort of mindset they have and how that mindset either helps them or hinders them. And as far as I've been able to deduce over the years, there's really one cause of mediocrity that is common to everyone. Now, of course, you can argue about things like financial advantages or sheer luck or being in the right place at the right time. Yes, these are factors, but I think one factor we can all control, and that is behind either our success or failure, is basically just persistence. That's it. Persistence. What I see in people around me is that they simply do not remain with something for long enough to get good at it. So an example is language learning. A lot of people I know start learning a language and they have this idea of, right, okay, I'm going to start and I'm going to do this every day for 6 months or whatever, and I'm going to see what my progress is like after that amount of time. And what kind of happens is they never build a consistent routine, and they never uphold that routine for long enough for it ever to be successful and for it ever to really have the effect that they're looking for. What typically happens is that they'll keep at it for a week or two, or maybe even a month, maybe even 2 months, but then for some reason, I've not spoken to them to ask. I can only infer from what I've read and from what I know about my own study and my own pursuits that I'm in. For some reason, it just falls by the wayside. It just falls by the wayside. It's like, I'm not really that interested in this thing, so I'm just gonna give it up. And that's not that important. So, and then what kind of happens over the years is over and over again, they have this idea of starting this thing that they've been trying to start over and over again for many years, and they've never been able to do it. And it's just like they're grinding the wheels over and over again and never getting anywhere, just stuck in the mud, not moving anywhere. In those cases, the real cause, beyond any ideas of like innate capability, which I don't think really exists, It's just that they're not staying, they don't stay with it for long enough. You're not staying with it for long enough. That is the issue here. And the fascinating thing about this, the number one cause of mediocrity, in my opinion, and listen, I say mediocrity not as like a judgmental thing, like you're a mediocre person, you're an inferior person. It's just mediocrity in terms of like, you're really not, you're not reaching the levels in your pursuits that you could be. And you're mediocre for that reason. You know, you could be a lot better. And you could gain the sort of fulfillment that's possible from getting good at things and the sort of self-confidence that you develop. You're not developing that. You're staying in mediocrity because of this issue here. Honestly, I've noticed this so much, and even in my meditation classes, like you might think, oh well, meditation and spirituality, you know, this doesn't apply because, you know, you can't be a good meditator, you can't be a bad meditator, you know, it's just, you know, the spiritual path isn't about skill building. Well, that's not really true. The spiritual path is about skill building. It's about building attention skills, meditation skills, and also, well, a whole host of skills that I don't even have time to go into right now. It's about skill building, fundamentally. Obviously, you can argue, you can look at it from whatever perspective you want. You're building skills. That's one of the main things you're doing on the spiritual path. And when I teach people meditation, that's the main problem that I find, is that people just do not stick with it. You know, when people come to my classes for the first time, they get an information pack, and it basically explains that, you know, if you don't do this for at least sort of 6 months on a regular basis, you're probably not really going to notice much of a change in yourself, and you're not really going to understand what meditation is about. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that I teach do not stay for 6 months, and I don't think it's because of my system or what I teach, because what I teach is a lot of it is the things that you'll find out there, and a lot of it is from the best meditation teachers in the world. And I've got a lot of meditation experience. I've got a lot of teaching experience. I don't think it's me. I think it's people's lack of willingness to just stick with something and stick with something and just trust in the process. It happens in my meditation classes. It doesn't always happen, of course. And the interesting thing is that when people do stick around for at least 6 months, you really start to see the difference in them. And you start to see that they're really getting it, and you're starting to see that they're really starting to change as people. And they see it as well. They really get it and they understand it. And it's something that I try and instill in all my students, because I think an important part of being a teacher, whatever you're teaching, is instilling the right attitudes in people. So I try and instill the attitudes that have brought me to the places I've got to in some of my pursuits, including meditation. And one of the basic attitudes is to stick with it, to keep training consistently over the course of months and years, no matter what happens. Even if sometimes it's not very obvious the effects that it's having on you, meditation or any other routine that you're following for any pursuit in life. But the thing is, you can say these things, and they sound kind of nice, and they sound sort of inspiring, but the problem is that unless someone is actually willing to do the work themselves, there's nothing you can really do as a teacher. Your teacher in any pursuit sets the standard, hopefully, and they inspire you and they show you the way, and they say things that will motivate you and keep you on track and whatever. And obviously they'll show you the techniques, of course, that's basic. But the thing is about teachers or apps or a book, whatever system you're trying to use to learn something, to get good at things, to improve your life in some way, they can never do the work for you. And the work a lot of the time isn't very glamorous. You know, reading books and listening to audios and listening to teachers is very glamorous, but no one can do the work for you. No one can sit there on a Wednesday night after you've been working all day and do what you need to do to learn a language, or to learn how to meditate, or to start a business, or to learn a new skill, or anything. No one can do that for you. You have to do it. And I think that's one of the reasons why people don't persist with things, is because they realise that the actual journey isn't very glamorous and they don't like it. I mean, listen, we could philosophise about all kinds of reasons, and it can be quite specific to the person, but what I want to say right now is, one of the interesting things about this problem is that a few things, but there's one key thing which I'll get to in a minute or so. One interesting thing about it is that I'm not saying that you're inherently incapable of anything, that you don't have the talent for it, you don't have the resources, you don't have the know-how, you don't have the materials, you don't have the teachers available. Notice I've not said any of that. And it's for a good reason. It's because none of that is really an issue, in my opinion. I mean, listen, if you're living in the mountains and in the wilderness, and you've got no internet connection, and there's no villages around you, or there's no people around you, that might actually be an issue. You know, the issue of materials and of having the right resources and having the opportunities available to you. Or if you're like, I don't know, like a homeless person who doesn't even have a house, and they have zero money, and they have like mental health issues and physical issues and whatnot, fine, understand that's probably an impediment. But to most people, ordinary people who have a house, they live in a town, or at least a village, and they've got people around them, they've got internet, they've not got serious health issues. All of this stuff is secondary. All of the method you're using, and the people that are around you, and the people that can support you or help you, that is kind of a secondary issue, in my opinion. The core issue is that you just don't stick with it for long enough. You're not persistent enough. And the interesting thing about this issue, and that's what I was going to get to right there, the most baffling, confusing, fascinating, weird, frustrating, crazy thing about this issue right here is that it's such a stupid reason not to get good at things, or to develop skills, or whatever you're trying to do. It's such a stupid reason. It's the remedy is so easy here. I'm not telling you need to like do anything fantastically wild. All you have to do is persist. All you have to do is keep going. All you have to do is stick with it, for God's sake. That is all you need to do. The remedy is so easy. And you wonder, well, if the remedy is so easy, why is this the number one cause of mediocrity, Ross? If it's so easy, why is it the number one cause? As I said, I could philosophize about the reasons for this, and I've written a lot of articles about this. Go to deep-psychology.com, go to the learning and mastery section, and you'll see a lot of reasons that I give, sort of ideas that I have about this. But the solution is very easy. Whether you're learning a language, whether you want to get yourself in shape, whether you want to start a business, whether you want to learn mathematics, whether you want to change career, whether you need to develop new skills to change career, whether you have emotional problems that you're trying to take care of, it doesn't matter. Any form of change. I once said that basically personal transformation is about learning fundamentally. Any form of personal transformation, any form of personal change, you have to keep going. You have to keep going. There is no substitute for just doing it over and over again. And you have to trust in this. Like, You have to build a trust in persistence that no matter how scared you are about this pursuit that you're undertaking, no matter how, like, all the limiting beliefs you have about yourself, all the, you know, the ideas you have about how good you are inherently or how terrible you are inherently at this thing, it doesn't matter, because persistence will get you there. It will eradicate those fears. It will make your fears sort of it will slowly just swallow them up as you see your skills building and as you realize that, hey, this, like, sticking with it is actually what works, and it is working. That is my message. I just want to really encourage you to make this your focus, is the persistence. It's the doing it over and over again. It's the repetition. It's the desire to continue no matter what, over the course of months and years. It's interesting because I feel like more than a lot of people that, you know, I'm going to be very honest here, and I don't want to sound arrogant, because I don't know where this comes from, and I'm not saying this as like a self-praise thing. I'm just saying how I see it and how it appears to me. It appears to me that I understand this more than 99 out of 100 people that I meet. Like, I understand the importance, the absolute necessity to keep going and to be persistent, and the power of doing so, more than 99 out of 100 people that I meet. And I feel like I've always understood it implicitly. You know, only in recent years have I maybe been able to put into words, because I've really studied this stuff, and I've analysed myself, I've analysed other people, I've taught people, etc., etc. Only now have I been able to put into words, but I feel like from a very young age I understood this. Like, I remember, for example, with maths, I actually, I'm a bit of how do I phrase this? I'm pretty good at maths. I did a career. My degree was based on maths, very mathematical degree. I got top grades in school, top grades at university. I've taught maths. I taught maths for nearly 10 years, self-employed. I remember when I was 12 or 13 years old, I didn't stick out at maths at school at all. I wasn't really interested. I just thought it was a load of nonsense. I didn't know why we were getting taught these weird abstract things. Depended on the topic, but a lot of the time I had that impression. I was like, why are we doing this? This is completely, like, so far removed from my life. I remember something clicked in me about age 13. I remember I found like a textbook from my sister who was doing maths that was way harder than me, because she was 4 years older than me, or she is. I remember looking at this textbook and I just saw all these symbols from some of the stuff she was doing, all these symbols and all these equations and all this stuff, and I was just like, I was captivated by it. But at the same time, I remember thinking, how am I ever going to, get to that level? Because I don't, I'm 12 or 13 years old, and I'm, who am I? Who am I to understand all this stuff? But I remember even then, sort of deep down inside me, thinking, it's persistence, it's sticking with it, it's keeping going even when it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. And I feel like that, even though everyone looks at me and they think I'm some sort of genius, and I did very well at school in general and in university, but particularly in maths, people look at me and think I'm some sort of mathematical genius, and I really don't think that's true at all. I think I persisted, and I trusted in my persistence and my stick-to-itiveness so much that eventually, inevitably, that wore down all my inadequacies, goodness me, all my fears, all my inadequacies, all my, ideas about, oh, well, I could fail in this and that, and oh, well, if I'm not, how am I going to do this, blah, blah, blah. It just got worn down by my persistence. And from then on, I feel like it's been installed in me very potently to a level that most people do not have. And I'm not saying that persistence and the trust in persistence is innate either. I'm saying persist over and over again at something until you inevitably become good at it, and you will develop that trust. If you don't have it, you have to just listen to me when I say sticking with something over and over again over the course of months and years, despite all the obstacles, despite all the mental shit you're going to have to go through, that is the key. And it's what is the difference between mediocrity and success in any pursuit. So listen, I really hope this has been an informative episode for you. And again, this applies to absolutely everything. Anywhere in life that you're not feeling you're getting where you want to get to, it's really about sticking with it for long enough to get good at it. So thanks a lot, everyone, and I'll be back next week with more. Take care. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please leave a review. And if you'd like to get in touch, you can email me at ross@deep-psychology.com. If you'd like to go deeper, head to deep-psychology.com for articles, courses, ebooks, and one-to-one coaching. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.